Blood God asks, who is your favourite Decepticon and Autobot? My favourite Decepticon is Scorponok. I love Generation 1 Scorponok. The character, the toy, everything about him, I think he's fabulous. And Autobot, my favourite is either Skylynx, because the toy is so awesome and I love his arrogance, or Repugnus, because he's such a non-Autobot. He's more vile and more sadistic than most Decepticons, yet he fights for the Autobots, and I think that's a rather interesting tension. Another Autobot I like is Punch and Counterpunch. He's a Transformer with multiple personality disorder. He actually has two personalities, the Autobot Punch and the Decepticon Counterpunch, and I like that tension as well. Bembis81 asks, what do I think of the Hellraiser movies after Hellraiser 1? I think Hellraiser 2 is a very worthy sequel. It's uneven and it has incredible problems, largely owing to the fact that a financial crash hit whilst they were actually filming it. So half of the budget was sheared away, and you can definitely see that in the film. But I like the fact that it maintains the essential spirit of the first film, and also I love the surreal elements that it adds to the mythology, things like Leviathan and the labyrinth itself. And Dr. Channard. Dr. Channard is a wonderful character, particularly when he's cheese-wired into Cenobitism. Love that. As for the other Hellraiser films, I don't think they're worth the film they're printed on, to be honest. Hellraiser 3 I thought was a shocking film. It reduced Pinhead to the status of a Freddy Krueger-style villain who actually laughs when he kills people. I mean, that's just not Pinhead. He loses all of that papal majesty and that ambiguity that he has in the first couple of films. So, and as for the rest, well, it's obvious that they weren't Hellraiser films initially. They were just Z-grade horror films that had the Hellraiser motif tacked on at some point in post-production. Dodicurus asks, do you think the technological singularity is coming, and how soon? That's an interesting question. I don't know whether the technological singularity will occur at all, to be quite honest. I think what we're moving towards is a status where technology is becoming more homogeneous, so we are getting towards the point whereby formats that were separate before, such as telephones, television, and computers, are becoming unified. But as to the status of artificial intelligence, it's debatable whether it will occur at all, or whether we will just come up with something that very accurately simulates intelligence. Of course, it's an argument of semantics. You could argue that something that perfectly replicates intelligence is intelligent, and so on and so forth. But whether we will reach that status whereby artificial intelligence reaches the same status as our own and can thereby start to upgrade itself, I don't know. I don't think we're even halfway there, to be quite honest. So if it does happen at all, it won't be for many. Mind you, that said, the rate that technology is speeding up, it could be something like it or akin to it could occur far sooner than any of us anticipated. It's very difficult to say. I think it's a distinct possibility that it will occur. I think that's the most anyone can say with any degree of honesty. VanHorso, the horse with hands, the horse with hands. You'll also find his channel floating about here and over there, and VanHorso is hilarious. He's one of the few YouTubers where I actually have to stop his videos sometimes because my mouth, my jaw, and my belly ache with laughter. And VanHorso asks, have you ever pondered on the exact moment at which a Transformer delivers its peak level of gratification for you? Is it the pre-unboxing anticipation or the satisfied glance after many moons? Good question. I find that there's always an initial rush when you get that the box in your hands and you can see the Transformer in the package. And then I find once I've actually unwrapped it, there's one of two emotions. There's either an expansion of that initial excitement, oh goodness, I've got to transform it and see how it works, and etc, etc. Or there is a sense of ennui and disappointment, because it's obviously not as impressive out of the box as I thought it was going to be, or as the pictures on the internet implied. But I do find that the very best Transformers are very much like fine wines. They get better as time goes on. You don't lose that initial enthusiasm. Rather, it simply mellows and becomes something much deeper, an attachment. I particularly found that with toys such as Generation 1 Scorponok, which I've had for some years now. It took me 8 years to find the bastard initially, my absolute favourite Transformer. And he still is, even weighed against some of the more modern toys that are obviously more sophisticated in their design or whatever. I've simply found that my appreciation has deepened and deepened as time has gone on. And I imagine I get the same vibe from Generation 1 Skylink, so I haven't had that for very long. I bought him the reissue, the Japanese reissue of him, but he certainly has that feeling of a classic about him. So I think the more satisfying experience comes later, after the initial excitement has died down. I've also found that with Transmetal 2 Megatron from the Beast Wars range, I mean, I was very excited to get that toy. I loved the look of it when I saw the pictures on the internet, and I had to have it. And the initial excitement with that one, because I have a thing about dragons, and it is just such a fantastically designed toy. Easily the best in the Beast Wars range. Without a shadow of a doubt, it is the best toy from the Beast Wars range. For me, anyway, speaking personally. I found that my appreciation for the toy has simply deepened as time has gone on. There are little details on it that you notice that you haven't come across before, that you've just neglected, and you think that is utterly ingenious. The Llama Within, excellent username, asks, has a book ever provoked a particularly strong emotional reaction from you? Many, 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 many books have evoked something particularly strong in me. Books and literature and narrative in general define my existence. There's no... I'm not engaging in hyperbole in that. I've been exposed to literature and to fiction in one form or another for as long as I can remember. It's always been there. And it informs my personality. It informs who I am. And that's usually the hook by which I become interested in something else. If it has a good narrative or a mythological quality to it, then it will usually attract me or pique my interest. TV shows, I mean, I've recently become attracted to Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes. Stunning, stunning shows. Also, shows such as Lost and whatnot, because they have such beautifully written and engaging narratives, simply draw me in. Insofar as books go, the ones I can pinpoint, I mean, practically everything has some sort of effect on me. Sometimes it is just, it's just this evocation of how the fuck did this get published? It's awful. But Weave World by Clive Barker, I read that when I was 11. And that had an incredibly profound emotional and intellectual reaction to me. That was like a blossoming in my mind, because it showed me the metaphysic qualities of fantastical subject matter. Before, all I'd really read in the fantasy arena were things like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is technically, yes, he is technically a metaphysic fantasist, if you like, but C.S. Lewis functions within very strict parameters defined by his very particular religion, and that never really appealed to me. And Tolkien is, of course, almost entirely escapist. His work is not metaphysic in any particular way. It's just an escapist mythology. Whereas Barker is one of these, I suppose you could call them neo-fantasists or postmodern fantasists, who use fantasy as a mirror, a very deliberate distorting mirror to reality, to reflect particular aspects of the world we live in. I suppose what Weave World showed me was the potential that fantastical subject matter has for making very serious and trenchant human observations and explorations. It's a beautiful, beautiful book that's about meta-narrative. It's very aware of meta-narrative, about why we need fiction and the purpose that mythology plays in our lives. In fact, I could say the same about practically everything Barker's written. I have read everything he's published, and they all have this same quality, this ability to induce epiphany and catharsis that I've rarely come across. Others that have moved me emotionally are Poppy Z. Brite. Poppy Z. Brite is the only legitimate punk horror author I know of.